Hey everybody, welcome back to Hawkeye Skunk Works, and this is my frustrated face. I will tell you why I'm frustrated. It's a week after Christmas. I had a whole week off for vacation time. Weather was supposed to be relatively nice. I was going to take the Explorer up, put it in a park somewhere, film a nice video montage of all the mods that I've done to it, suspension, drivetrain, all that kind of stuff. And I ordered a couple new parts for it for some upgrades, a little horsepower gain, hopefully. And I was going to show you guys those, and we're going to go through installing those and the modifications. It's a direct bolt-on, but there's a little bit of handiwork involved to it, which I was really excited about. And then the day after Christmas, in the evening, we were going to go venture out into town. We had to pick up a couple things that we ran out over the holiday weekend. And yeah, well, now let's look. I seem to be missing some engine parts now. And yeah, came out, had the car running. See that there's antifreeze leaking out from underneath the car. Fantastic. Take the Jeep out, come back. Upon further investigation, see the driver's side of the intake manifold just had antifreeze running all the way down. It didn't seem to be thermostat housing or gasket, which I was really hoping it was. And any of you Ford guys know, late 90s, early 2000s, they big problem was plastic intake manifolds, either warping or cracking, and or gaskets going bad. I have no idea what caused the leak, but after looking at the intake manifold, it didn't seem to be cracked or anything, but 180 some odd thousand miles. Time to just get a new intake manifold and be done with it. So I tore it all down 9 o'clock one night. Surprisingly simple to take apart, which was nice. I've got a bunch of parts ordered, and yeah, you know, it is what it is. I ordered some upgraded factory type parts, so we'll go over when those get here. I'm pretty excited about some of that stuff. If nothing else, this project just bumped up my timeline on some regular maintenance items that I knew I was going to do in the spring and summer. And the fact that the whole top part of the engine is torn off, I guess, just makes it all easier for me to do it in one fell swoop. It doesn't make it any easier for my wallet, but it is what it is. So, that being said, as this week after Christmas goes along, parts are supposed to start rolling in, and I'm going to start putting them on, and we'll go over some of the cool stuff for it as I get the packages and as we start putting it together. So, I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I'm going to try to keep it as manageable as possible. So, roll footage, stay tuned. Okay, next day, or day 2 from the last segment. Intake manifold came in today. It's just a Dorman factory style replacement. Supposedly it's upgraded to fix some of the flaws the factory one had with cracking and warping. I've seen some guys go with some upgraded versions as far as like higher flow Mustang intakes, because this 4.6 liter 2 valve is for all intents and purposes the same as the one that was in the Mustang. Minor variations, we can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, intake showed up today. I actually got it bolted on, take a quick peek, and move on to the next thing. There it is. So there it is, all shiny and new on there. It's torqued down correctly. Now it's time to start just doing brackets and hoses and things like that, which will bring us on to the next couple of replacement parts that are actually going to be upgrades. So here is the first actual upgrade mod. This is the elbow intake that comes from the intake to the throttle body, which would go here down into the actual plastic plenum. Here's the stock one, which if memory serves was 68 mil, and this one is actually for a Mustang, and it is 75 mil. You can see they're almost identical, and there's only a couple major differences. You'll see you've got a vacuum port here, no vacuum port here. A lot of guys will drill the back of this and tap it with pipe thread, which is super easy, and add a fitting. All I'm going to do is use the fitting that's on the back on both of them. I got some T's. It's just they're both the same size vacuum line, so I'm just going to tee the lines together, and as long as everything all works the way it should, I will probably remove it and tap it and put that that fitting up on the top. EGR, the idle air control valve, I just swapped over. This has it's actually got a coolant in and out. It's supposed to, I'm not exactly sure what the point of that is, because this is a air tube from a breather tube from the intake pipe. So I don't see that being a huge problem. I'm just going to loop this into itself or cap it. I got to see what exactly the manifold has, and it's got a bung right there. So all in all, not too bad. Same mounting points for the throttle assembly, and you'll notice this doesn't have a throttle body on it later. I'm sure you can guess what is coming for that. But so let's go ahead and get that put on, and we'll take a peek at it as soon as it is finished. So things have gotten a little interesting around here. Got the intake on, like you saw. I got the upper intake elbow on, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But I gotta find the part. Here we go. I know earlier I mentioned that I broke the EGR tube. Well, I broke another part of the EGR tube. This is where it goes down into the actual exhaust manifold, which is just fantastic, and opens up a floodgate of options and possible breaking other things and EGR deletes and whatever. If you guys have any recommendations on stuff that you've done on your Fords that have worked good, please leave it below in the comments, or email me, hawkeyeskunkworks@gmail.com. Anyway, I was going to try and heat up the bung on the exhaust manifold with a torch, try and pull it out. I had enough room to put a teeny tiny little pipe cutter on it, and I had this one compression fitting brass elbow that I've used before. Probably anything that I do at this point is going to be a temporary fix until I kind of work out the wrinkles of all this and decide on a more permanent solution. I did have to heat this up with the torch and bend it a little bit, so I got to test fit this yet. So yeah, there's that. And then pulling out my spark plugs. You guys familiar with these Ford motors? I had a 5.4 F-150 that had the same type of motor with that overhead bulk junk that Ford likes to use. I changed these plugs about 1.5 to 2 years ago, pulled them out, didn't have a problem, pulled one out on the passenger side, and you probably can't tell, let me get a new one. Actually, these are both new ones at this point, but you can see this one has a bung on it. So at some point somebody pulled the plugs out, stripped it, put the bung back in, whatever, not a big deal. I put some vice grips on it gently, pulled the plug out, lubed it all up, put the new plug in it, and then I'll just run this one back in, and theoretically that should work just like it did before I took a file and got any burrs off of it from the vice grips. But yeah, that's what that is. So you work on Fords or anything else, let's be honest, you're going to have these types of problems. So I thought I'd show you those because I had never had that before. Now let's look at the fun stuff. Alright, the elbow is on and it's pretty awesome. I like it. Everything is hooked up really well. I did my T-junction right here. You can see that brass T-fitting. That is to take place of the one bung that's not on this elbow. So not a problem there. I'm going to have to get some vacuum hose, which I knew I was going to have to get anyway. You can see that those two ball brackets there, that holds the big plastic engine cover on, which I may or may not put back on. We'll just see how that all goes. And yeah, so that's on. I'm getting ready to put the plugs back in on the passenger side. I'm going to do the plugs on the driver's side. And yeah, I've been vacuuming and going with paper towels and stuff along the way, so shouldn't be too bad. So next, plugs, throttle body, and we'll pick back up when the throttle body is back on. Plugs are in, the throttle body itself is in, and I put in another set of things that I didn't tell you guys about, so let's take a peek. I've got quote-unquote professional grade, upgraded, higher voltage coil packs. Amazon's words, not mine. They got good reviews, it was a decent price, so that's what I bought. And we all know that colored motor parts make everything go faster and have more horsepower. So, throttle body. Went on the throttle position sensor. It bolted on, but not like, there's like a little gap. Well, not a gap, but I don't know, it's not perfect. But it definitely will work as long as the signal, as long as it reads the butterfly well. I apologize if that didn't make any sense, but I may have to get a Mustang throttle position sensor. Plug should be exactly the same. Looks like all the throttle cables are going to bolt right up, so that's awesome. I'm not sure if my stock air pipe, my intake pipe, is going to bolt on. Seems like it's going to be a little bit small, but maybe nothing a little drum sander on the Dremel can't solve, making the inside of that rubber intake tube a little bit bigger. Otherwise, we'll get silicone elbows and we'll put breathers on all the PCV stuff and put some piping in, whatever. So, anyway, the intake. This is the intake I got. Quality is not too bad. You get what you pay for. Polished one on the box. I got the satin one. Throttle body by the same brand. They're 75 mil, both of them. I'm not sure the brand on the coils. Now, I didn't plug the coils in or screw them down yet. I need to go to the hardware store tomorrow. I got to get some dielectric grease to grease the tops of the plugs and the coil boots. I need to get a... Oh, yeah, let's take a look at that EGR. Underneath the car, passenger side, you can see, hopefully, there is the brass elbow. That's where it broke on the bottom. Going up to the top here, and you can see towards the firewall where the other brake is. That's the tube coming off the actual EGR valve on the throttle body, and you can see the sensor there with the vacuum hoses. Possibly a 45 degree compression fitting will put that together. I may just get some cap compression fittings and just cap everything. I'm kind of curious to see what codes it throws. Well, tomorrow is Friday. I apologize if this video is getting long, guys. I'm trying to cut out as much fluff as I can and keep it interesting. I just think it's going to be way better to keep it in one video. Like I said, today's Thursday. Go to the hardware store and get some parts tomorrow, do a little bit of tinkering. The last set of parts that I need will not be here until Saturday, and I'm hoping at that point those will just go in, because there really shouldn't be any, oh, this is broken or that's broken. It should just be a plug and play. Good to go. We'll run it, and fingers crossed, we'll have a running, leak-free, code-free Explorer. So I will catch you on the flip side. Finally, almost done. It is New Year's Eve. I get the last package of parts today, and it is upgraded fuel injectors. And by upgraded, I basically just mean factory rebuilt with newer, better parts, internals and stuff. They're still the factory poundage, and they are the Ford/Bosch injectors, but they are in. Everything is in at this point. All I have left is to put the air intake tube and some vacuum hoses on it, and then it is going to be time to fire it up and take it for a spin. Also, another thing that I didn't mention was the throttle body did not fit the factory intake tube, but after a few minutes adjusting it, shall we say, with the Dremel and a rotor sanding bit, it fits just fine. So, don't have to spend the money on extra elbows. It's a little snug, but we'll get it on there. one last thing. I couldn't find a quick and easy solution that I was happy with to my broken EGR tube, so what I did was I capped it at the exhaust manifold, I capped it at the EGR valve, I kept the vacuum hooked up to the valve itself, I kept the sensor that came off of the tube plugged in, and I just capped the 2 vacuum ports with some high temp silicone stoppers that I use for powder coating. And I'm sure it'll throw a code, but as long as it runs for a week or 2 while I figure out a long-term solution, I'm fine with that. So yeah, I think we're done. Let's fire it up. It's alive and it runs and it's fantastic. A couple small things that I expected. I think it might have a little bit of an exhaust leak where I plugged it at the manifold. It's got a little noise there, not a big deal. It's brass and I didn't know if I had it tight enough, and I didn't use any sealant, so whatever. It's going to expand and contract. I'll tighten it down, put some sealant on it. But the other thing, I think I'm probably going to hook the EGR valve back up. You can see some smoke. It's burning off all the excess antifreeze all over the engine block and PB blaster and all that good stuff. Because I checked it, it brought it up to temperature, running temperature, and no leaks. So we're good. Yeah, I'm going to hook the EGR back up. It seems at lower throttle and lower RPM, it's kind of confused. It doesn't really know what it wants to do. Runs perfectly fine, but as soon as you start accelerating more and hit that quote-unquote wide open throttle, you can tell the vacuum tells everything to close, which turns off the EGR, essentially, from what I understand, and it just takes off, so it's awesome. But I'm probably going to hook that back up, just the way that it's supposed to be. Anyway, the throttle pedal's a little sticky, and I've read that you may need a stiffer throttle return spring on the throttle body when you're running the 75mm Mustang throttle body. I bent mine a little bit to make it a little bit tighter. I might get a little bit heavier duty one, and I lubed up the spring a little bit on the side of the throttle body, and it seems like maybe the butterfly is still kind of meshing with the inside of the throttle body. You know, you get what you pay for. I think that after I run it a little bit and maybe get some wear into it, the parts will mesh better and get a heavier duty spring. It should be fine. I did back the screw off of it so they can return, and it's about 1100 RPM. If I push the throttle linkage, it goes down to about 900, which is where it should be, and I think it just needs to be used a little bit. So other than that, I'm super happy with it, and I'm gonna go drive it around a little bit more and just to double check. So yeah, like I said, tonight is New Year's Eve, so cheers. Drink and drive responsibly, and enjoy your family. That's what I'm gonna go inside and do after this. Thank you again for checking us out. Give the video a thumbs up. Please feel free to leave any comments in the section below. I'd be more than happy to hear what you guys have to say, tips and tricks. And head on over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under Hawkeye Skunk Works. Give us a follow. You can always reach me at hawkeyeskunkworks@gmail.com. @gmail.com. So again, thanks a lot. Have a great night. Happy New Year.